Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. And it's time once again for FOMO Friday. We love to take every Friday's podcast and bring you the stories of the week, because you're not listening to propaganda media anymore and you don't want to have that fear of missing out. So that's what we do. We inform you of the things that you probably need to know, and maybe a few things you probably don't need to know, but we throw those in there just for you get grins and giggles. But from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this very first one, and this is awesome because we have been following this story here on the podcast. We've brought it to you a number of times in all of its variations and the things that have been happening, but wonderful things happen when Donald Trump was elected, and this is just one. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Thursday pardoning 23 of the pro-life activists targeted by President Joe Biden's Justice Department. Quote, "They should not have been prosecuted," Trump said as he signed the order. "Many of them are elderly people. They should not have been prosecuted. This is a great honor to sign this," unquote. Well, the pardons are for 23 peaceful pro-life protesters who were prosecuted by Biden's administration for exercising their First Amendment rights. And they were prosecuted under the FACE Act and a Reconstruction-era felony conspiracy charge first used for the first time against pro-life activists by the Biden administration. The Thomas More Society, the law firm representing the activists, had asked Trump to pardon the 21 pro-lifers. Quote, "Today, freedom rings in our great nation," said Steve Crampton. He's the senior counsel for the Thomas More Society. Quote, "Heroic, peaceful protesters unjustly imprisoned by Biden's Justice Department will now be freed and able to return home to their families, eat a family meal, and enjoy the freedom that should have never been taken from them in the first place," unquote. Well, Peter Breen, the executive vice president of the firm, added this. He said, "Today is a new day for the pardoned pro-life activists who have suffered FBI raids, federal prosecutions, and severe punishment for peacefully and courageously witnessing for life. We thank President Trump for keeping his promise to these pro-life mothers, fathers, grandparents, pastors, and priests." Quote, "What happened to these peaceful pro-life individuals must never happen again," he said in the statement. "We urge Congress to act swiftly to repeal the FACE Act to make sure that the Justice Department can never again weaponize this law to target peaceful protesters and pro-lifers with severe charges." Many of those pardoned were convicted multiple times in trials in Washington, D.C., Nashville, Manhattan, and Detroit, while sentencing has not been completed in each case. Several pro-lifers were already serving lengthy prison sentences. And in D.C., a group of pro-life protesters sang songs, prayed, locked arms in front of the facility staff entrance, and attached themselves with ropes and chains to block doors inside the infamous Surgery clinic in October of 2020. It's a late-term abortion facility, by the way. Those who were imprisoned over the D.C. protests are people like 57-month sentence for Lauren Haney, John Hinshaw. He was serving 21 months. William Goodman, 27 months. It could go on and on. In Tennessee, a group of pro-life Christians gathered in a hall outside the Carafrem Health Center in Mount Juliet, where they sang hymns, prayed, and urged women not to get abortions in March of 2021. Calvin Zastro, 63, is currently serving a 6-month prison sentence over the protest, and 75-year-old Chester Gallagher was sentenced to 16 months, though he has not had to report to prison as of yet. In New York, Beverly Williams was sentenced to serve 41 months in prison after she was convicted of violating the FACE Act, and after she blocked the entrance to an abortion facility in Manhattan. The pardons should also bring relief to those who were awaiting sentencing, including the 89-year-old Eva Edel. We had her story here on the podcast. Edel, who survived a World War II era Yugoslavian concentration camp, was convicted in both Nashville and Detroit, and could have been sentenced to over a decade in prison over her convictions on FACE and felony conspiracy charges. When passed in 1994, the FACE Act was supposed to protect both churches and clinics, but the law has almost exclusively been used to prosecute pro-lifers. Data obtained by Roy shows that 97% of FACE Act cases brought by the Justice Department have been against pro-life Americans. Senator Mike Lee of Utah, he's a Republican there in Utah, and Representative Chip Roy, we were just talking about, the Republican from Texas, renewed an effort to repeal the FACE Act this week, pointing out how it has been disproportionately used against pro-lifers. The response to the pardons has already been positive, with Republican lawmakers and conservative activists praising the decision, of course. And the news came shortly after the Daily Wire reported that Trump would pardon the pro-life activists within a matter of days. Friday is the 22nd annual March for Life, where Vice President J.D. Vance will publicly speak for the first time since he was sworn into office, and so that's pretty appropriate now that these have been pardoned. So, like I say, it is time to get rid of that FACE Act. It's basically what it says is that that if you protest, our First Amendment right to free speech and to protest and all that kind of stuff only goes so far. If you're doing it in front of an abortion clinic, then you can be sentenced, and you don't have that freedom. So anyway, very unconstitutional. Glad that those guys got pardoned. And speaking of more pro-life news, Senate Democrats blocked on Wednesday legislation that aims to protect babies born alive in botched abortions. Can you imagine? There's certain things that I will never be able to wrap my brain around, and this is one of those. How in the world could you ever vote against a bill like this? By a 52-47 vote along party lines, of course, the Republican-led upper chamber failed to invoke cloture on the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. A two-thirds majority was needed for consideration of the legislation to commence. The chamber's two newest members, Ashley Moody, who's from Florida, and John Husted, who is from Ohio, who were appointed to replace Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance, respectively, cast their votes in favor of the bill. That was a good thing, of course. Senate Democrats just voted to block the Born Alive Act. This isn't complicated. Babies who survive a failed abortion deserve medical care. It's truly unbelievable that protecting these precious lives is a partisan issue. I'll never stop fighting for the voiceless. That's what Katie Britt, who's the Republican from Alabama, posted on X. The Daily Wire actually reported exclusively last week that a group of lawmakers led by Senator James Langford out of Oklahoma were again introducing the bill that Republicans have tried and failed to get enacted over the past few sessions of Congress. And as written, the bill seeks to prohibit a healthcare practitioner from failing to execute proper degree of care in the case of a child who survives an abortion or attempted abortion. The Senate Judiciary Democrats account on X argued that the Republicans were pushing an unnecessary messaging bill today. It's already law. Any child born in America, regardless of circumstance, is afforded equal protection. Is what the account said. The so-called abortion alive or born alive abortion survivors protection act would only harm doctors and women, is what they had to say. Well, a number of Republicans begged to differ, of course, and one of them said, "Who they responded to a post from the White House correspondent Mary Margaret Olahan, who writes for the Daily Wire." Quote: "Republicans are not the radical party on the issue of life. Don't let them put you in a corner. Democrats can't even concede that a baby born alive should receive medical treatment if they survive an abortion. As the father of six, 3 of whom we adopted, this makes me sick," is what Millen declared. And who's the congressperson from Oklahoma, is if I'm right. And also, here's another quote: "I am disappointed that every Senate Democrat voted against my Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, making something that should be common sense completely partisan for the first time." This is what Langford said in a post on X. "This bill is straightforward and would have saved lives. I believe every life is valuable and that no one is disposable." So we'll keep an eye on that. It's just something that I just don't understand, how somebody can be so callous as to say, I'm going to vote no against a bill that would say that you have to give care to a baby who's born alive. Well, bit of good news. We've been kind of keeping track of what's happening with the propaganda media, and if you're a fan of the propaganda media, things are not looking really good. We've had a number of stories lately about how nobody watches them, number one, and I've had a number of people say, "Wow, did you see what CNN did, or MSNBC, or NBC News, or whatever?" And a lot of times I'll just say, "Yeah, but nobody cares because nobody watches." And it's really coming. The rubber is meeting the road, I guess, is how you can put it now, because big shakeups could be in the works for CNN as the long-running cable news network adjusts to the new media landscape and a second term with Donald Trump, of course, as president. In addition to the possibility of imminent layoffs, the network could be gearing up to shuffle around some of its long-term anchors. CNBC reported on Wednesday that CNN intended to announce layoffs impacting some 210 employees, or approximately 6% of its total staff. The news came alongside reports of layoffs at NBC as well, although the numbers of employees impacted by those is expected to be somewhat lower. The layoffs at both networks, according to the report, are part of a shift in focus towards more digital content as fewer and fewer people turn to broadcast and cable news for information. Along with the layoffs, anchors at CNN could also see some changes in their schedules and assignments. Fox News Digital reported on Thursday saying that they may not be thrilled at the prospect. Like, for instance, veteran CNN broadcaster Jim Acosta, right, who made a name for himself during Trump's first term, if you'll remember right, when Trump was in office. Acosta became a regular foil both for Trump and for then White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and could talk at could balk at a possible move to the late nights. The move, reportedly pitched by CNN CEO Mark Thompson, could see Acosta moved from his current 1-hour time slot at 10 a.m. Eastern time on weekdays to a 2-hour slot beginning at midnight, which was described in the report as a move to effectively exile Acosta to the Siberia of television news. So, yeah, can you imagine? Prime time to midnight. Well, he's getting an extra hour, I guess, right? Acosta, according to an unnamed CNN staffer, appears to be getting hosed, as they put it, by the network, and may not be given another option outside the proposed midnight slot. Quote, Acosta is a talented broadcaster who could handle any slot on the network. The midnight thing is shocking, but it is what it is, as they say. The Los Angeles Times reported that Acosta, rather than take the late night spot, could be considering a timely exit from the network. Would not be surprised if that happened. Acosta is not the only longtime broadcaster who could see dramatic changes, though. Thompson has already confirmed that Wolf Blitzer, in his long-running program, The Situation Room, will move from early evenings to Acosta's current slot at 10 a.m., and he will share anchor duties with Pamela Brown. So, like I say, all of this is happening. Why? Because nobody watches anymore, and so that's that's a good thing. That's why we're seeing this happen, and it'll be entertaining if nothing else, right? Well, this next story, I think you may not think much of it now, but I'm going to say that this next story may be the most important story that we've covered in a very long time, and we may not know it until later. But let's see what we have here. It says President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday $500 billion with a B, $500 billion in private sector investment to build artificial intelligence infrastructure in the United States, so the country can dominate in the future of the emerging technology. Now, Trump made the announcement at the White House alongside SoftBank CEO and OpenAI CEO and Oracle the Oracle executive chairman as well. These world-leading technology giants are announcing. This is the quote from Trump. These world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your book, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States. Here's another quote. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. This is what the president said of the leading AI talent and development. China is a competitor. Others are competitors. We want to be in this country, and we're making it available. I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations, because we have an emergency and we have to get this stuff built. He also continued by saying they have to produce a lot of electricity. We and will make it possible for them to get this production done easily at their own plants if they want. Well, the executives said that AI held enormous potential to transform the country and for every American. Trump said that the initiative would create over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately, he said. Altman, who is one of the CEOs there, touted how AI likely will be able to not only develop treatments for a wide range of diseases, but also cures as well. He says, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate, he said. We will be amazed at how quickly we're curing this cancer and that one, and heart disease, he even said. Ellison, one of the other CEOs, he also mentioned the healthcare benefit that came along with AI. He said, little fragments of those cancer tumors float around in your blood, so you can do early cancer detection. If you can do it using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test and using AI to look at the blood test. Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate that person, design a vaccine for every individual person that vaccinates them against that cancer. The mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So some interesting things there, and I think again it's going to be a story that is going to, I think, just be bigger and bigger. We'll see what comes of Stargate. That may be a name again that you want to just kind of put in the back of your mind, as you're probably going to hear that once again. Well, we can't go any farther without, again, FOMO Friday is about bringing you the stories that happen during the week, and one of those stories that I think is kind of designed to take some of the news out of the news stream of what Trump is doing, because there's so much that Trump is doing in his first days in office. But this one is capturing the attention of a lot of people, so we definitely wanted to cover it, and it's about a bishop. Marianne Booty is her name, the bishop who presided over the inaugural prayer service in Washington's National Cathedral on Tuesday. You may have seen that video. If you haven't, you might go and watch it. She disgraced the nation when she used a nonpartisan occasion of religious worship to deliver a left-wing diatribe to President Trump and Vice President Vance and their families. I wanted to read this to you because I thought this was kind of a little bit interesting, and I wanted to see if maybe you agreed with it or maybe you disagreed with it. But I wanted to bring this to you and see and kind of get your thoughts. It says that after asking Trump to have mercy on gay, lesbian, and transgender children, she went on to harangue him from the pulpit about the immigration policies, described illegal aliens as the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings. That's how she described them. Though Booty's rant was wholly inappropriate to both the occasion and her office, it should have come as no surprise to the White House staff, given her long history of left-wing activism. As the first woman to lead the Episcopal Diocese of Washington, Booty has routinely prioritized political matters over spiritual ones, staking out a public anti-Trump position, actually. In June of 2020, for instance, she told ABC that the nation needed to replace President Trump. That's what she said when he made an appearance in front of the St. John's Episcopal Church to send a message to George Floyd rioters who had burned the historic building. She told the Washington Post, quote, "Everything Trump has said and done is to inflame violence. We need moral leadership, and he's done everything to divide us," unquote. Booty's comments were especially ironic given her backing of divisive radical policies. In 2020, she supported a new healthcare proposal from Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear that would have provided coverage only to Black residents. And she called the Black Lives Matter protests a sacred act, as she put it. Her biography on the diocese website, which lauds her as an advocate and organizer in support of justice concerns, including racial equity, gun violence, prevention, immigration reform, and full inclusion of LGBTQ plus persons, and the care of creation. That reveals that she is, in fact, a political operative in priestly robes, right? Well, in the understandable fallout from Booty's sermon, as some have called it, many Americans who do not pay close attention to the religious matters are asking how the Episcopal Church has fallen so far from anything resembling biblical doctrine. Well, what few realize is that Marxists who infiltrated the church decades ago long worked to see activists like Booty placed in high church offices. The documents in the Soviet archives and testimony from ex-communists like Herbert Baumstein, the Communist Party of the United States, embarked on a program to infiltrate mainstream Protestant churches, including the Episcopalians, to entice their pastors to embrace socialism. Well, after he left the Communist Party USA, he testified before Congress on the suckers list. His organization had assembled. That is, it's the lists of institutions and groups he and his comrades had planned to subvert. A key target among them was clergy. Indeed, he later told Reagan biographer Paul Kenger that they were the biggest suckers of them all because he and his comrades had more success infiltrating their ranks than those of any other group. Members of the Soviet Comintern, the International Socialist Organization that included the Communist Party USA, were atheists, but they knew how to appropriate religious terminology for political ends. Their intimidation game worked especially well in the National Council of Churches, which is a Protestant umbrella group that included the Episcopal Church. By giving social justice causes pseudo-spiritual names, they were able to replace heavenly concerns like saving souls with earthly ones like wealth inequity. And in fact, later records show that the Episcopal Church became one of the most deeply compromised denominations, with an estimated 20.5% of its rectors associated with communist activities. According to now declassified records, American communists acting under Soviet orders even successfully enlisted pastors to lobby President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to keep America out of World War II because Stalin and Hitler were, at the time, allies. Presumably calling itself We of the Church, the innumerable activist group, American Peace Mobilization, was the name, published an open letter in the New York Times calling on President Roosevelt to put an end to what we deem is an aggressive, militant foreign policy, which will inevitably lead to the destruction of democracy, as they put in the letter. Like I say, it does go on. This article does go on, but I like how it ends. They bring up Matthew 7:12, which says, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves." And I, like I say, I think what happened here is, first of all, the staffer, whoever vetted this bishop, probably needs to be fired. But yeah, I mean, it's, she's doing everything she can to be political, and then she blames everybody else for being political, which of course it's called projection, and that's what liberals love to do. Well, let's end on kind of an interesting and, if not yet funny, article, and that is about American Idol. American Idol executives have reportedly been in crisis talks about, guess who? Carrie Underwood's debut as a judge following her performance at President Donald Trump's inauguration. ABC bosses have reportedly said, following the 41-year-old country singer's performance, there have been calls for people to boycott the upcoming season in which she is supposed to be a judge. The Daily Mail reported this, and on Monday, Underwood performed a stunning a cappella version. If you got to see the inauguration, you saw that there was some technical issues with the music, and there was kind of an awkward pause for a little while. And then she said, "You know what? Let's just sing it a cappella." She invited everybody to sing along with her. I thought she did a great job, but an insider told the outlet that there are concerns that contestants might be uncomfortable being part of a show and fear her doing so could affect ratings. Really? Because she sung at the inauguration? Quote, idol contestants come from a wide range of diverse backgrounds, and so do people who work on the show. There are concerns. This is a source there at the network. There are concerns that her apparent political stance might make some contestants feel uncomfortable. I love how they will tell you that, boy, we need diversity. I mean, even this source here said, we come from different backgrounds. Well, then what's the issue? If she wants to support Trump, she can support Trump. It's part of diversity, isn't it? But like I say, liberals, if they didn't have double standards, wouldn't have any standards at all. So anyway, we'll watch that. We'll see. I thought she did a great job. Love to see if you did too. Of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening.
This podcast is a production